Alright, so this is part one of learning. And in this video, we're going to understand what learning is and what learning is all about. Because it's not enough to just take in information. We have to understand what that process even is when we talk about learning something. What are the different components of learning? That way, once we identify this, you can be very mindful of the ways in which you approach learning. You can almost use this as a checklist of, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? To ensure that the information you're coming across even sticks well. First, let's define what learning is. And then we're going to talk about the different components of learning. Learning is the acquisition of knowledge or skills through experience, study, or by being taught. So you can learn by yourself, you can learn from others, etc., etc. Now, let's go over a couple components of learning and kind of break down each component. Number one, acquisition of knowledge. So learning involves gaining new facts, concepts, principles, and information through studying, observing, or experiencing things. So this is you coming across new pieces of information you haven't had before. I'm sure you understand this already. Pretty plain and simple. This is one facet of learning. But always remember, information in and of itself, knowledge in and of itself, isn't always enough, because you can get knowledge, but if you don't act upon that knowledge, if you don't repeat that knowledge to yourself, if you don't see practical examples of that knowledge being true, then it's going to go in one ear and out the other. At best, it's going to stay in short-term memory, and then you're going to forget about it, right? And we're here to truly learn, which is going to touch on the other components I'm going to talk about. But when we're truly learning, we're truly keeping that information long-term. And it's going to require more than just consuming the given information. So the next facet of learning is skill development. Learning allows us to develop new skills through practice and repetition. Skills can be cognitive, for example, problem solving, physical, aka riding a bike, or social, aka communication. So keyword here, through practice and repetition. So the first one, we had information, but now we have to practice and repeat the information. That way we develop the given skill, we develop the given understanding. The things you learn in this program, you have to repeat it, write it down, implement what's said. That way you can truly learn the given thing through repetition and through practice. So that's the skill development side of things. Have you ever had it where you are watching a bunch of YouTube videos and you're consuming all this information, but you don't really retain everything? It's because you're missing other components that are important in the learning stage. It's not enough to just passively intake information. So next, behavior modification, which is probably one of my favorites because I always harp on how learning is behavior modification. Learning can change existing behaviors or lead to new behaviors through conditioning, imitation, or conscious efforts. So behavior modification, behavior change, aka, is what you do differently as a result of the information you came across and the skills you developed. How you live differently, how you do tasks differently. The truth is, if your behavior isn't changing, you haven't truly learned. You may have more information, but learning is behavior change. So we have to monitor ourselves, we have to track ourselves to ensure that behavior is changing. That's why I always recommend like the Habit Share app for you to track your given habits. In the part of this program when we talk about identity resonance, aka identity shifting, I bring up and harp on the importance of having a habit tracker that objectively measures your behavior in terms of the habits you've completed, because it allows us to track our behavior modification, our behavior change in an objective fashion. That way we don't fall into things like self-deception, so on and so forth. Next, personal growth. Learning expands our understanding, shapes our perspectives, beliefs, and values. It contributes to our intellectual, emotional, and ethical development. So when we notice our growth as a person, self-development, our understanding of a given field more, our expansion from a psyche level, this is a result of truly learning a given thing and truly embodying it. If you learn about empathy, for example, and you start implementing empathetic practices, you'll start to notice that you're going to grow as a person. You're going to be able to connect with people more. So that's an example of how learning can change the individual via how they grow. And then we have memory formation. The learning process encodes new information into long-term memory through repetition, association, and other encoding techniques. So with repetition and revisiting information multiple times, you start to ingrain those given lessons into long-term memory, right? You create those neural pathways, if you will. And with those new neural pathways, you can tap into that information more seamlessly. With those experiences, you can tap into those experiences more seamlessly. And this really helps with the degree of learning that you accomplish. So those are the different pillars of learning I want you to be mindful of and remember, not only just as you go through this program, but also just in life in general. It's going to really help you with ticking off those boxes and ensuring that you're truly grasping topics and you're really embodying them, and you really see that faster progress in relation to, how you educate yourself. Lastly, I do want to say that you can learn both very formally and from a standpoint of you learning from somebody else, right? Other people, but you could also learn through experiences. You can apply all these things we mentioned from the standpoint of both personal experiences and other people. So it's not like where, hey, you have to wait till you're at an academic setting, or you're watching, you're going through this program here, or you're learning from a friend or something. No, it can be when you experience a given thing, maybe in your relationships, maybe your experience, going to the gym, maybe your experience with dieting, maybe your experience with religion, all sorts of things that you can utilize these different criterias of learning to see better progress in.